My marriage to Serafina Vance began with a meticulously calculated business merger and ended with, well, an accident I don't even know how to describe. Our home was a penthouse duplex overlooking the Hudson River. The decor was Serafina's signature minimalist style, black, white, and gray, as cold and imposing as a modern art gallery. And we were its two main exhibits, never touching. For 6 months, we slept in separate rooms. Every morning at 7 sharp, she would rise, glide into the kitchen in a flawless silk robe, and prepare herself a nutritionally balanced breakfast, measured down to the last gram. I, on the other hand, would stumble out of bed around 7:30 after she'd already left for the day and grab a splash of milk and whatever bread was in the fridge. We were as polite and distant as business partners meeting for the first time. She called me Mr. Hayes. I called her Ms. Vance. On the rare occasions we had to attend a gala together, she would take my arm. Her posture was perfect, her smile camera-ready, but the muscles in her arm were always rigid. I could feel it, a visceral rejection of unnecessary physical contact, born from a deep-seated fastidiousness. My name is Ethan Hayes, and I run a boutique production company. She is Serafina Vance, the head of the Vance Consolidated Empire, the woman they call the Ice Queen of the corporate world. Everyone envied me for marrying a woman of such staggering wealth and beauty. They said I must have saved a planet in a past life. Only I knew the truth. I felt like a common thief who had stolen a goddess's most precious treasure, and I was drowning in guilt and shame. I've been in love with Serafina Vance since high school. Even back then, she was the school's legendary Ice Queen. Perfect grades, an immaculate uniform, her ponytail pulled back without a single stray hair. And me? I was the rebellious kid who was always getting into fights and skipping class. Our worlds were a galaxy apart. The closest I ever got was catching a glimpse of her silhouette crossing the athletic field while I was stuck at basketball practice. So, when my father told me the Hayes and Vance families were arranging a marriage, and that my bride would be Serafina, I thought I was dreaming. It was the most surreal day of my life, the overwhelming joy of a secret love finally realized. That is, until the night before our wedding. My father, dead drunk, grabbed my hand, his eyes filled with tears. "Son, I'm so sorry," he slurred. "I failed you, and I failed that poor girl. To save the company, to fix our liquidity crisis, I had to move heaven and earth, swallow every last bit of my pride, and beg for this marriage. The Vance girl is a good kid. You have to treat her right. You have to make it up to her." His words were a bucket of ice water dumped over my head. So what I thought was a dream come true was nothing more than a transaction, bought and paid for with my family's dignity. And Serafina, the girl I had worshipped from afar, was the innocent sacrifice. Guilt wrapped around me like a vine, squeezing the air from my lungs. How could I accept this gift? How could I ever be worthy of her? On our wedding night, faced with Serafina in a breathtakingly beautiful gown, I forced the words out. "Serafina, I know you might not have wanted this. Don't worry. I won't ever force you to do anything. You can have the master bedroom. I'll take the guest room." She froze, and for a split second, a flicker of an emotion I couldn't decipher crossed her stunning face before her usual icy calm returned. She simply nodded and said, "All right." From that day on, an invisible wall stood between us. I deliberately kept my distance, terrified of crossing any lines. I was afraid my presence would feel like an imposition. I was afraid any warmth from me would only remind her of the transactional nature of our marriage. I couldn't even bring myself to take her to my parents' house, terrified I'd see the accusation in her cold eyes. "Your family did this to me." So we lived under the same roof, more distant than strangers who happen to be roommates. She seemed to accept this arrangement, maintaining her aloof persona and her terrifyingly disciplined schedule. The only change was that she started cleaning. A lot. We had a cleaning service that came every day, but she always found something to do. I'd come home from work to find her in sweats and gloves, wiping down the already gleaming hardwood floors or polishing the furniture. She attacked the task with a focused energy, as if she wasn't cleaning but exorcising some silent, deep-seated resentment. I assumed it was her way of protesting this sham of a marriage. Every time I saw her scrubbing away, my heart ached with a sharp, piercing pain. This twisted, platonic marriage continued for 6 agonizing months, until the hotel incident shattered our fragile equilibrium. My company had just landed a huge project. I was in a good mood, and my best friend and business partner, Leo Rivera, dragged me out for a celebratory drink. Leo's a player. He's always thought my married life was pathetically monastic and considered it his sacred duty to help me out. He poured drink after drink down my throat, and the next thing I knew, he was propping me up as we stumbled into a hotel room. "Bro, got a surprise for you. Little man. Don't let the night go to waste," he whispered with a wink before vanishing. My head was spinning as I collapsed onto the bed. Before I could process anything, the bathroom door opened. A stranger, a woman in a bathrobe with a full face of makeup, walked out. The alcoholic haze vanished, replaced by sheer panic. I shot up from the bed, instantly sober. "Who the hell are you? We'll let you in," I snapped. The woman was taken aback by my reaction. After a moment of hesitation, she put on a professional smile. "Sir, Mr. Rivera sent me." "Get out." I pointed at the door, my voice leaving no room for argument. What the hell was Leo thinking? I was a married man. Even if my relationship with Serafina was a complete farce, I would never, ever do something so disgusting as to cheat on her. My tone scared her. She clutched her robe tightly and scurried out of the room without another word. I ran a hand through my hair in frustration, pulling out my phone to rip Leo a new one. I yanked open the door and froze. Standing in the hallway was Serafina. She was dressed in a sharp, black power suit, pulling a silver carry-on suitcase. She must have just gotten back from a business trip. Her gaze drifted past me to the woman who had just exited my room. Then, her eyes slowly returned to my face. On that perpetually stoic face, a faint, chilling smile began to form. "Mr. Hayes," she said, her voice as calm and still as deep water. "Is this you being caught in the act?" My brain short-circuited. Blood rushed to my head, then drained away just as quickly, leaving me cold and numb. "No, it's not what it looks like," I scrambled to explain, the words tumbling out in a panicked mess. "It was Leo, that idiot. He set this up. Nothing happened with her. I just kicked her out." Serafina just watched me, that slight smile never leaving her lips, though deep in her eyes, I thought I saw something shatter. She didn't press, didn't scream. She just nodded, her tone almost casual. "Oh, I believe you." Her calmness was more terrifying than any accusation. That "I believe you," to my ears, sounded exactly like I couldn't care less. And why would she? She probably hoped I would cheat. It would give her the perfect excuse to escape a marriage she never wanted in the first place. The drive home was suffocatingly silent. Back at the apartment, I shut myself in the guest room, my mind a chaotic mess. My phone rang. It was Leo. I answered and immediately let him have it. "Ethan, what the hell is wrong with you? I do you a favor and you chew me out?" Leo shot back, just as angry. "Look at your life, man. You're married to an ice queen, living like a monk. She doesn't give a damn about you. Did you see her reaction? Any normal wife would be raising hell. Her? Not a peep. You know what that means? It means she does not care." Leo's words were a poison-tipped blade, twisting right where it hurt the most. He was right. She didn't care. For 6 months, my caution, my guilt, my attempts to make things right. In her eyes, it was all probably just a pathetic one-man show. My self-proclaimed protection of her was likely the exact distance she had always wanted. The months of repression, the shock of the evening, and the crushing despair of this moment. It all came crashing down on me. I stormed out of the guest room and pounded on the master bedroom door. Serafina opened it. She had changed in her pajamas, her face a blank mask. I looked into her placid eyes, my heart constricting with a pain so intense it took all my strength to force the words from my throat. "Serafina, let's get a divorce." The color drained from her face, leaving her ghostly pale. But she stood ramrod straight, like a pine tree bracing against a winter gale. She was silent for a few seconds. Then she gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod. "Okay." The next day we went to City Hall. A clerk mechanically informed us that, by law, there was a 30-day mandatory waiting period. We received our filing receipt and walked out of the stately building. The sun was blinding. I squinted. Beside me, Serafina was silent, but her knuckles were white where she clutched the thin piece of paper. A bitter taste filled my mouth. Finally, I was giving her back her freedom. She would no longer be trapped in this miserable marriage. I turned my head, planning to say something polite like, "I wish you all the best." But when my eyes landed on her, I froze solid. What was I seeing? Floating above Serafina's head, a translucent chat box had appeared out of thin air. Inside the box, a line of text made of scrolling pink hearts danced joyfully. Thank God for the waiting period. 30 days. That's plenty of time. I have to use this chance to win my hubby's heart back. Let's go, Serafina. You're the best. I mean best. I blinked. I rubbed my eyes, positive I was hallucinating from the stress and last night's alcohol. But no, the pink, ridiculously cute chat box remained, hovering stubbornly over her head. She didn't want a divorce. She wanted to win me back. Hubby? Is that what she called me in her head? The barrage of revelations made my brain crash. Istère de her, dumbfound. She must have felt my gaze because she looked up at me, her cool face etched with confusion. What is it? Why is he staring at me like that? Is he having second thoughts? Does he not want to leave me either? OMG, that has to be it. I knew he cared about me. The pink text refreshed, this time in a bold, larger font. I felt my entire worldview being systematically dismantled. This was her inner monologue? I could see her thoughts. To test this insane theory, I clear my throat and try to sound casual. Nothing. I was just thinking, since we're in the waiting period, we're still legally married. And dividing assets will take time. For that period, we should probably continue living together. It'll be easier to communicate. I held my breath, my eyes glued to the chat box above her head. He wants to keep living together. He actually said it. He can't bear to leave me. He has feelings for me. He loves me. Serafina, be cool. Be poised. Don't break character. The chat box exploded with text, complete with celebratory fireworks animations. The real Serafina, however, merely furrowed her brow slightly, as if carefully considering the logistics of my proposal, before giving a reluctant nod. Fine. I almost choked. So, for the last 6 months, I had been the star of my own self-pitying melodrama, completely misreading the entire situation. I fought to keep a straight face as we headed home, my mind reeling. The entire way, I kept sneaking glances at the chat box, feeling like I had just unlocked a secret level of reality. Back at the apartment, I had just sat down on the couch when Serafina walked over, holding my suit jacket from the night before. "I'm having this cleaned," she stated flatly. "Ugh, it reeks of some other woman's cheap perfume. It makes me sick. Nope, my husband is not wearing something contaminated by that harpy. It must be cleaned. I'm going to soak it in bleach for 3 days and 3 nights until every last trace of that stench is obliterated." Looking at the murderous text scrolling above her head, then back at her calm, "I'm just a neat freak" expression, I couldn't stop a cough from escaping my lips, which I quickly disguised. Adorable. How is she so damn adorable? I made a decision right then and there. This divorce wasn't happening. And not only that, I was going to get to the bottom of whatever colossal misunderstanding had happened between us. From that day on, my life turned into a romantic comedy where I had been given a cheat sheet. I began to discreetly observe Serafina and the information-rich chat box floating above her head. For instance, the next morning, I broke with tradition and got up before her, sitting at the dining table. When she came out with her perfect little breakfast, she stopped short. "Hubby's up early today. Is he waiting to have breakfast with me? Is he? OMG. Are we finally going to eat together like a normal married couple?" I'm so excited. "Okay, Serafina, pull it together. You are the ice queen." She sat down across from me, her face a mask of indifference, and began to gracefully slice in her hard-boiled egg. I watched her and said casually, "Didn't sleep well. Woke up early. Liar. You were totally waiting for me. You big softy. But since you made the effort, I suppose I can forgive you." I looked down at my coffee, my shoulders shaking with suppressed laughter. Then there was dinner. We used to eat separately or order takeout. But that evening, I came home to the unfamiliar, delicious smell of a home-cooked meal. Serafina was in the kitchen, wearing a gray apron that matched my suit, her silhouette framed by the setting sun. The light cast a soft, warm glow on her usually cool profile. I leaned against the doorframe, my heart melting. "What's the occasion?" I asked. She glanced at me over her shoulder. "Tired of takeout?" "Oomph." "As if. I can't have you getting tempted by some vixen on your lunch break. I've heard the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Tonight, you will witness the culinary genius of a master chef. I will cook so fiercely that every other woman will weep at my skills." Above her head, a cartoon version of her was brandishing a spatula against a backdrop of roaring flames, with the words "Battle Mode" engaged flashing underneath. I looked at the beautifully prepared dishes on the table. Then at her, I just threw this together. Expression. The collision of gratitude and amusement in my chest was so intense, I thought I might actually explode. I ate 3 helpings of everything that night. On Saturday, I had plans to play basketball with Leo. I was dressed and ready to go when Serafina appeared before me, holding a mop. "You're going out?" she asked. "Yeah, meeting up with Leo." "Now, you're going to see that toxic friend who sets you up with random women." "No, I can't let you go. What if he drags you to some other sleazy place? I have to find a way to make him stay." As her mind raced, she impassively began to mop the floor. She very precisely mopped a large circle around me, paying special attention to the area by the front door, which she went over 7 or 8 times until it was practically flooded. I looked at the swamp she had created, then back at her. "Maybe I'll go out a little later," I offered. Mission accomplished. Yes. A victorious V for victory sign popped up in her chat box. She, however, just looked up at me with an expression that said, "Can't you see I'm working here?" and stated, "The floor is wet. It's slippery." I was completely defeated. I walked back to the living room, sat on the couch, and turned on the TV. Seeing that I was truly staying, she immediately dropped the mop and ran into the master bathroom. A few minutes later, I heard a small, muffled gasp. My heart seized. I rushed to the door and knocked. "Serafina, are you okay?" The door opened. She was wrapped in a towel, soaking wet and shivering, her lips tinged with blue. I think I accidentally turned on the cold water." "It's you. I'm freezing my butt off. The things I do to keep my man at home. The damsel in distress tactic is the goat. There's no way he can leave me to go hang out with his friends now." I looked at her red nose and the triumphant, self-congratulatory text above her head, and I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I scooped her up into my arms and carried her toward the master bedroom. Her body went rigid, and her cheeks flushed a brilliant shade of crimson. "Ah, he's carrying me, bridal style. His chest is so warm and strong. He really does love me. I'm not dreaming, am I?" I gently placed her on the bed, wrapped her up in the duvet like a burrito, and went to find a hairdryer and some cold medicine. I spent the rest of the afternoon by her side, drying her hair, feeding her hot tea, and watching her drift off to sleep. When she was asleep, the chat box finally went quiet. I watched her face, her long eyelashes casting soft shadows on her cheeks. Without her icy armor, she looked so peaceful and gentle. My heart swelled with an emotion I'd never felt before, a tender, aching sweetness. All this time, my guilt and my attempts to give her space, she had seen it as coldness and indifference. We were like 2 people trying to have a relationship through frosted glass, both using our own clumsy methods to show love, neither able to see the other's true intentions. The misunderstanding was monumental. The real turning point came the day before I had to leave for a business trip to Boston. It was a crucial deal, and I had to be there in person. That evening, I was in the guest room packing my suitcase when Serafina followed me in like a shadow. She hovered around, refolding my shirts and arranging my ties by color. She didn't say a word, but her chat box was playing out a full-blown melodrama. "He's leaving. Is this his excuse to move out? The waiting period isn't even over, and he's already leaving me? He's packing so carefully, he's even taking his toothbrush. He's definitely not planning on coming back. Wow, I haven't even won him back yet, and he's already gone. Ethan Hayes, you big knucklehead. You heartbreaker. What do I have to do to make you stay?" I watched her mentally cursing me out while silently placing my shaving cream in my suitcase, and my heart softened. I zipped up the bag and stood. "Okay, all packed." She wrung the hem of her shirt, her head bowed. "He's really leaving. Hubby, don't go. I don't want you to go. Her silent scream was practically bursting out of the chat box. Just when I thought she would say nothing, she suddenly looked up, her eyes red-rimmed. In a trembling, tear-filled voice, she blurted out, "Don't go." Those two words sent ripples across the calm surface of my heart. I looked at her, my own heart pounding in my chest. This was it. The time was right. I walked toward her until I was standing right in front of her. I leaned in, looking directly into her eyes, which were brimming with panic and hurt. My voice was low and gentle. "Why don't you want me to go?" My question threw her. Her lips parted, but no words came out. What? What do I say? That I like you? That I love you? That I don't want a divorce? No, that's so pathetic. He'll laugh at me. Seeing her internal struggle, I decided to give her one last push. I reached out and gently cupped her face, my thumb stroking her soft skin. "Serafina," I said, enunciating each word. "Is it possible that you don't want this divorce?" That was the key. Her emotional dam broke. Tears spilled from her eyes, hot and heavy, splashing onto the back of my hand. She could no longer maintain her icy facade. She sounded like a heartbroken child who had been wronged by the entire world, her words choked with sobs. "Yes, I don't want a divorce. I never wanted a divorce. Ethan Hayes, you are such a jerk. Do you have any idea how cruel you've been? On our very first night, you banished me to a separate room. What do you think I am? Some kind of monster? You never take me to see your parents. Are you ashamed of me? Are you afraid I'll embarrass you? One time I slipped in the bathroom, and when you rushed in, your first instinct wasn't to help me up, but to cover yourself up like seeing me was a sin. You only ever talk to me like a stranger. Ms. Vance, thank you. You're welcome. We're husband and wife, not business associates. You never call me your wife. And now you want to divorce me. In your eyes, am I worth less than that woman you met in the hotel room? At least you were willing to be in the same room as her." She was sobbing uncontrollably, gasping for breath as she finally unleashed 6 months of accumulated pain and insecurity. Listening to her accusations, my heart felt like it was splitting in two. So that's how it was. What I thought was respect and distance, she saw as disgust and indifference. What I thought was penance and compensation, she saw as polite, empty gestures. We had both been using our own misguided logic to push each other further and further away. This colossal misunderstanding was finally being washed away by tears and truth. I couldn't hold back another second. I pulled her into a crushing hug, holding her so tightly I wished I could fuse her into my very bones. "I am sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I repeated into her ear, my voice raw and hoarse. "I'm an idiot. I'm a fool. It's all my fault." She cried even harder in my arms, her small fists weakly beating against my back. I tilted her tear-streaked face up to mine and kissed her, kissed the cold lips that had just unleashed a torrent of accusations. This kiss was different. It wasn't the polite, ceremonial touch from Charity Gala. It was filled with the frantic joy of rediscovery, the explosive release of long-suppressed love, and a bone-deep apology. After a long moment, I pulled back slightly, resting my forehead against hers. I looked into her eyes, washed clean by tears and shining brightly, and in the softest voice I had ever used, I whispered, "Wife." Her body shuddered. Fresh tears welled up, but this time, she was smiling through them. The chat box above her head was now completely obscured by a cascade of dazzling fireworks and hearts. "He called me wife. He called me wife." I kissed her tears away. "Wait for me," I whispered. "I'll be back before you know it. And when I get back, we have a lot to do, and even more to talk about." On the train to Boston, the first thing I did was call my dad. "Dad," I said the second he picked up, "back when you arranged the merger with the Van Cess, did you have to go and beg them?" My dad was silent for a moment, then burst out laughing. "What are you talking about, kid? Why would I beg them? You told me you did. You said to save the company, you had to move heaven and earth and swallow your pride to get them to agree." "Oh, that," he said, the light bulb obviously going on over his head. "I meant I had to move heaven and earth to convince the universe to make it happen. I was praying, son, not begging the Van Cess. What goes on in that head of yours?" My jaw dropped. "Besides," my dad added, a smug tone in his voice, "we didn't have to do any convincing. It was Serafina's idea. When her grandfather asked for her opinion, She said as long as the groom was Ethan Hayes, she had no objections. You, my boy, won the lottery. After hanging up, I leaned back in my seat, watching the landscape blur past the window. The last 6 months of my life felt like some kind of absurd cosmic joke. All this time, the guilt that had been crushing me was nothing but a beautiful misunderstanding. She hadn't been a sacrifice. She had chosen me. I finished my work in Boston at record speed, skipped the celebratory dinner, and booked the first train back to New York. When I opened the door to our apartment, it was dark except for a thin sliver of light coming from under the guest room door, my old room. My heart skipped a beat. I walked over quietly and gently pushed the door open. Serafina was asleep on my old single bed, curled up in one of my white button-down shirts. The hem fell to her mid-thigh, revealing her long, slender legs. She was hugging my pillow, her brow slightly furrowed, as if she were having a troubled dream. The chat box was still faithfully on duty, though the text was scrolling much more slowly. Why isn't he back yet? I hope everything's okay with work. He's not just lying to me, is he? Using the trip as an excuse to run away. Ethan, if you don't come back soon, I'm gonna be really mad. Hubby, I miss you. Seeing her look so small and vulnerable, every last doubt and reservation I had simply evaporated. I walked over and sat on the edge of the bed, reaching out to smooth the worry from her brow. She must have sensed me. Her long lashes fluttered, and her eyes slowly opened. When she saw it was me, a brilliant light of pure joy ignited in her sleepy gaze. You're back, she murmured, her voice soft and husky with sleep. Yeah, I'm back. I leaned down and kissed her forehead. Wife, I'm home. The name made her blush. She shifted uncomfortably, trying to sit up. I placed a hand on her shoulder, leaning down until our noses were almost touching, my warm breath on her skin. Don't move, I whispered, my voice deep and thick with emotion. Let's do something else instead. Okay. She stared at me, her mind clearly not caught up yet, but her chat box gave her away immediately. Do something else? Does he mean that something else? So soon? I'm not ready. My heart is going to beat out of my chest. I looked at her adorably flustered expression and let out a low chuckle. You'll have plenty of time to get ready. I captured her lips with mine, swallowing her gasp of surprise. That night, the light in the guest room stayed on for a very, very long time. The next morning, we woke up in a master bedroom, in the king-size bed. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows. I turned on my side to watch Serafina sleeping in my arms. She looked deeply peaceful, a faint, contented smile on her lips. I finally truly had her. We mutually decided not to go back to City Hall to withdraw the divorce petition. There was no need. We would simply let the waiting period expire. After getting up, Serafina did something unusual. Instead of her morning routine, she sat down in the home office, a serious expression on her face as she typed furiously on her laptop. Curious, I walked over and saw she was drafting a post-nuptial agreement. The agreement stated that she was voluntarily transferring all her personal real estate, stocks, and liquid assets to be co-owned by both of us, as shared marital property. I frowned. What are you doing? She stopped typing and looked up at me, her expression earnest. Ethan, I have a lot of money. This is all for you, for us to share. So, she paused, her eyes growing misty, her voice laced with a plea she was trying to hide. So you can't ever leave me. My heart felt like it was being squeezed. This woman, who seemed so indestructible on the outside, was so deeply insecure. I closed her laptop, pulled her out of the chair, and held her tight. You idiot, I whispered in her hair. Even if you had nothing, I would never leave you. The only thing I have ever wanted is you. To put her other fear to rest, that weekend, for the first time, I took her to my parents' house. At the dinner table, my mom held Serafina's hand, fussing over her with a warmth that clearly flustered her. My dad kept piling food on her plate, a grin plastered on his face. Serafina was a little shy, but underneath it, I could see her visibly relaxing. Halfway through the meal, she stood up, raising her glass to my father. Dad, thank you. My dad looked confused. For what? Thank you. She glanced at me, a lovely blush coloring her cheeks. For moving heaven and earth for this marriage. But actually, you didn't have to. The moment I knew it was Ethan, My answer was always going to be yes. My parents were lost, but I understood perfectly. It was her way of telling me and telling my family that her feelings for me were real and had been for a very long time. On the drive home, with soft music playing in the car, I held her hand and finally asked the question that had been burning in my mind. Serafina, when did you start liking me? She turned to look out at the city lights, a gentle smile playing on her lips. High school, she said. Back then, you were this fearless, reckless kid. Everyone was scared of you. They all kept their distance. But I saw you. I saw you secretly leave your umbrella for a stray cat caught in the rain. I saw you be the first one to jump in when kids from another school were bullying one of her classmates. And I saw you on the basketball court after a lost game, practicing your shots over and over again until you were completely exhausted. She turned back to me, her eyes shining. Ethan, you thought you were hiding in the crowd, watching me. But the truth is, I was hiding in the crowd, watching you. The person I fell for was fierce and brave, but also incredibly kind. So when my grandfather asked if I would consider the merger with the Hayes family, the first thing I asked was, is it Ethan? When he said yes, I knew what my answer was. Our story started so much earlier than I ever knew. Our secret crush was never one-sided. On the day the 30-day waiting period ended, we didn't go to City Hall. Instead, we were at home, looking at the 2 red marriage certificates we had kept safely in a drawer. As the sun hit them, the colors seemed impossibly bright. I instinctively looked up, trying to see Serafina's chat box. But it was gone. The translucent box that had been my guide for the past month had, at some point, vanished. I was startled for a second, then a relaxed smile spread across my face. I didn't need it anymore, because when I turned to look at the woman beside me, she was already looking up at me, smiling. Her clear, bright eyes were filled with an undisguised love and happiness that needed no translation. I understood. I could hear her heart, and its message was loud and clear. Ethan, thank you for choosing me. And I love you.